We're here together so that we can talk to you about the program and then answer any questions that you might have. Next slide. The KL2 is part of the SC-CTSI, which is the Southern California Clinical and Translational Science Institute. It's an institute established at the University of Southern California and Children's Hospital Los Angeles in 2008, with support from the National Institutes of Health and by being one of the hubs for the CTSA, right, which are the Clinical Translational Science Awards. And they really establish hubs at different universities throughout the country to work to build the infrastructure for research, to move science forward faster towards improving human health. And really, it is about increasing the speed, success, and rigor of translational science. And our overall mission is that the SC-CTSI is led by a team of faculty and staff members with deep experience in developing and supporting clinical and translational research in, and our slogan has slightly updated, in the patients we serve in the heart of Los Angeles. Next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about who's participated in the program in the past and the success they've had through it, who's eligible for the program, what kinds of financial support are offered through the program by both the CTSI and the expectations for your own department, what our educational and programming offers are, what is expected out of mentorship, as this is a mentored award, and then we'll go through a few important dates for you to keep in mind as you think about applying for this cycle. So the Mentor Career Development Award, also known as the KL2, is a 3-year program. And we created it to support research careers for health professionals or individuals with research doctoral training who are pursuing formal training in clinical and translational research. And so there's really a wide group of faculty that fit into the benefits of the program. Our goal is to help people establish their research careers and their plans for funding to help support them on a clinical translation agenda. And so to date, we've had 16 cohorts that have started, and we're currently recruiting for the 17th cohort to apply this summer. And so if you cycle through, you can see we started way back in 2010 with this cohort, and if you keep going through, at a certain point here, you find me, I joined in there, and we have many people that have joined our cohort and really established an alumni network. Some of our initial cohorts are now sending their mentees to join into the KL2 program. And I think one of the really great components of this program is that you work alongside people from lots of different clinical training backgrounds, right, or from other research areas, and you really learn how to think about your work as more of a system of science than necessarily the one project that you've been working on because a mentor gave it to you. And our goal is to help you build those collaborations and those networks, sometimes with your own cohort, but also just to work on those skills so that you're able to establish collaborations with other institutions and really build your team that is going to help you be successful in solving the clinical and translational problems that you're facing. We have everybody trains together, but there are separated between people who are supported directly by the NIH on the KL2 program, and then people who are institutional scholars who are supported through other funds at USC and the CTSI to also be supported for training time, to take the courses, and to participate in all of the programmatic efforts. But across our KL2s and our institutional scholars, we have a lot of success in helping people get to their next step of their funding, and they're incredibly productive in terms of the publications they produce that are rigorous and impactful and are really changing the way that we treat patients. The whole premise behind translational science is that there are different areas where we focus our research, and that our research should always be moving from one area to the next. So some people are really focused on basic research, right? That doesn't necessarily have a clinical focus yet, right? But it might. And when an interesting finding comes through, those tend to be things that we then study in preclinical research. So those might be animal models or organoids or simulations that aren't in humans yet, right? But have a clear human health target. And that's what makes it preclinical research rather than basic research. And then we start moving from that preclinical research, we have promising treatments or interventions to clinical research, where those might be the first in human studies, the first time that we're testing the safety of something and really testing the efficacy as we move to efficacy trials. And what we really focus on at the SCCTSI is that clinical research through public health side. So you have a great clinical intervention, but how does it actually work in the real world, right? And that's where we want to get into clinical implementation. How do we make sure that these treatments are safe and effective in the real world populations? And we also want to understand the public health and policy level implications, right? If we make these policy level changes so that these interventions are happening in large populations, do we actually see changes in population health? And the KL2 program supports research from preclinical through public health, but our SCCTSI is most focused on clinical research through public health. And sometimes we go backwards, right? And I think that's the same thing too. We used to think of this as a continuum. We moved from basic science through public health, but now we really think of it as more, spokes on a wheel, where the patient involvement and the patient-centeredness is the focus. But we move sometimes from clinical research back to preclinical research when we're trying to understand why something worked the way it did or why it didn't. Right? Or at the public health level, we might find different public health outcomes than we planned on, and we have to really move back to clinical research and understand why we thought something was efficacious. And so it's just very important that when we think about, putting our research into one of these buckets, we also understand it's our job as clinical and translational researchers to step backwards and forwards, right? To collaborate with team members who have skills in different areas or to develop those ourselves. So this program, the KL2 MCD program, is really for early stage investigators at USC, both the Health Science Campus and the University Park Campus, and CHLA, who are investing in a career in clinical and translational research. Right? So this is a time commitment for you as well. It's not just a financial, offer. It's also making sure that you're willing to put in the time and the effort that's going to be required to really advance your career. We have three kinds of people that kind of fit into that category. Some are clinicians who are transitioning to a research career who had a strong clinical background, but maybe haven't had a lot of prior research training. And so for people in that group, we, bring you in, you start early on in some core foundational work through Department of Public and Population Health, and then move on to our specific programs that are offered through the KL2. And we'll talk through those in a few slides. And sometimes we have early clinician scientists, people who've had some research training, but they're not quite ready to be independent, right? You're not quite ready to start applying for your Rs yet, and you need some structured mentorship and didactic work to really establish your research niche and aims and prepare yourself for independent applications. And so typically, if you have pretty extensive research training to start with, some of those core foundational things that are at the very beginning, you will pass out of and just start into the core KL2 work that we do together. And then the other group that has been really successful in this program are basic scientists, usually PhD alone with a few years of postdoc training, who are transitioning to more clinical focus of their research. Perhaps they're moving to a preclinical focus when before they were very basic science trained, or they might have had very minimal preclinical experience, and we're really trying to move them along towards preclinical to clinical transitions. You do need to have a professional doctoral degree or a research PhD. And you need to be junior faculty or anticipating that you will be faculty status by the program start date. And for people applying this year, that is April 1st, 2026. So you must be faculty before April 1st, 2026 to apply to this program. You need to be a U.S. citizen, non-citizen, national, permanent resident, and those are per NIH requirements. Not something that USC has necessarily established, but it is an NIH-sponsored program, so we do have to follow those expectations. You need to have 75% effort available for your mentored research and career development activities for 3 years. And I think that this is a big step. You need to talk to the chair of your department early and make sure that this is something that they can support. Because your mentored research and then career development activities will take 75% effort. And making sure that that's clear to your department and your chair of what that means is very important early on. And lastly, you need a committed mentoring team and that department commitment. And we need to know that your mentors are going to be there to support you when you face challenges, to help you negotiate some of those protected time needs, to help you get the resources you need to get your research done. And I think that this is really one of the most critical parts of being successful in this program is having a mentorship team that understands that junior investigators need support to learn these skills. Many of us have a lot of clinical training or basic research training, but not necessarily that, how to get the research done and funded and move forward training. And that's where your mentors can be really helpful and successful in getting you through this program and onto independence. This is the breakdown of the financial support available. So the SCCTSI, through the NIH grant or other CTSI funds, will support you for 2 years. And for those 2 years, you are committing 75% of your FTE towards the mentored research projects or your career development activities. And in exchange for that, the SCCTSI provides $90,000 plus fringe benefits. If $90,000 is less than 75% effort of your salary, then your department is responsible for the cost share, that remaining salary that needs to be covered, as well as that remaining 25% effort, which can be put towards teaching, administration, or clinical work. And the SCCTSI provides $25,000 a year for research support or career development activities, or a mix of both. So there might be a special workshop or intensive that you want to go to, that could be part of your career development activities, or the research support. Some people put all $25,000 towards a research project that they have. And when you're accepted to the program, we walk you through that process of how that needs to be documented and approved so that you can get that support. Your department's responsible for 1 year of support on their own, and they need to make sure that you're getting 75% time for your research and career development. That remaining 25% is at your department's discretion. Again, it can be clinical, teaching, or administrative work. And your department needs to commit $25,000 towards your research projects or career development activities for that 1 year. For this cohort that's coming in that we're recruiting for, we are in the middle of applying for a renewal grant, which we have a lot of optimism that it's going to go well. We've been very successful in the past, but it will likely be that the first year is on the SCCTSI support, the second year will be on the department support, and then the third year will be back on the SCCTSI support, unless our renewal grant comes through earlier than anticipated. So just making sure that your department is aware of that as you're preparing an application, that there might be an alternating year where that department support is in either the first or the second year, as opposed to the third year. Next slide. All right, so that's the financial administrative stuff that you need to know to start talking to your department about. But I think you need to know, what are you committing to for the educational program? And I'm a KL2 alum. I was started back in 2013. It was really helpful for helping me get onto the research trajectory I wanted to be on. I came from a mostly clinical background and needed that time to really establish myself, build my skills, and get my funding agenda together. One of the key components of our program is a class that's offered through Department of Population and Public Health Sciences, the Clinical Translational Research course, which you would start in August of year 1. It's a full year course. We take you through focusing on study design and designing rigorous research, through aligning your analysis to match your hypotheses, which is an actually really difficult skill for a lot of clinical translational researchers to master. And we finish off with getting you ready for applying for your own independent grants, how to write your best bio sketches, how to prepare for submitting, articles and papers, and preparing for promotion, and all of those important things that early career faculty need structure and support in to help you succeed. As part of that, you are taking the coursework that will take you to getting a master's in clinical and translational research through population public health sciences. For those of you who are coming in without a lot of research training, before that August start date for PM 612, you're going to be taking some pre-coursework in biostatistics and epidemiology to help you get ready for that coursework. And then there are you get to take another elective and then do mostly directed research in your thesis units, and that finishes off your master's in clinical translational research while you're in the program. Every month, we get together with institutions across the country who have CTSAs, and we have a national speaker series focused on issues important for early stage investigators, both in terms of research design, presentation of your findings, or career development skills through the national speaker series. It's monthly, although we don't meet on 4th of July, and there's a few other months that we do take off because of holidays or other breaks. Every 6 months, we have a work in progress session where you and your mentors come together with all of the other scholars and mentors and present an update on your work and how things are going and what your next steps are. And it's a great opportunity to have other experienced investigators listen to your projects, listen to your next steps, and listen to your questions. What are the things you need help with? And to get a wide variety of expert opinion and how to successfully build your career. We also partner with the workforce development with the research success teams, which have didactic sessions about every other week on Tuesdays or Thursdays. We really encourage you to join those after the PM 612 course series is completed, although you're welcome to join before if you wish to as well. And those also have work in progress sessions where you can get another group of expert advisors to look at your projects in progress, look at your grant proposals, and help give you feedback so that you can build the most successful proposals possible. We've established writing accountability challenges for those of us that are, balancing clinical, administrative, and teaching work. Sometimes our own writing becomes less important. It becomes the least critical thing to work on. So we've established writing accountability challenges a few times a year where you and your cohort, are accountable with the other cohorts that you're tracking along with, and reporting how successful you are at the hours that you wanted to spend on writing. Did you actually make it important? And sometimes that external motivation can help kickstart you to making it a priority in your schedule again. We do have other workshops and seminars that happen a couple times a year. Those are very focused on the KL2 scholars and really high-level leadership thinking about establishing your research teams, about how chairs think about things, which are important as you're building, your negotiation skills to really understand all those things that are being balanced. In year 2 and 3, we have individualized K grant coaching so that you are, as you're preparing your next career development award, which is the next step for many people in the KL2 is KL2 to KO8 or K23 or KO1. Where you establish, your grant, your outline of it, and then we match you with Dr. Liz Zielinski, who's sat on NIH Career Development Award Study sections for many years. And she really gives you feedback about how to make your application most successful. And the last really fun thing that we do is in April every year, as you're transitioning from your first year to your second year, we go to the Translational Science meeting, which is the affiliated society for people who are engaged in clinical and translational science. And we meet up with people from across the country. There's probably the best career development workshops I've ever been to are there. They're really the leaders in how to build clinical and translational careers. There's mock review sessions, posters, collaborative network building, and we just get to go out and have fun for a night of dinner while we're out there for a few days. And people from across the SCCTSI head out there, and we all have the opportunity to get to know each other, outside of kind of more formal didactic programming. So how does this all fit together? Because that was a lot I just told you about. So how it all fits together. And Jeannie has made one of the most beautiful diagrams I've ever seen. So we're going to flip to the next one. So how this fits together, and this is still a complicated slide, but we want to make it clear, there are some busy years, but it's not that these things are all on top of each other at the same time. Right now we're in the pre-award phase where we're thinking about the program, you're applying to it. We have the selection process over the fall, and then we'll have our cohort identified by early December. And some of you will need to take some coursework before you start the PM 612 CTR series. And there's, of course, always onboarding and paperwork anytime you get a grant. If you haven't received a grant before, you're in for a lot of fun time as you figure out all the paperwork and things that you need to do to receive the funding. And we walk you through that process. We understand that everybody joining this program are early stage investigators, and this might be the first time you've had your own award. So there's a lot of support provided in helping you prepare budgets, helping you make sure that you have the right approvals. Jeannie is like an amazing mastermind at helping everybody stay on track. She's been doing this for 16 cohorts already. And if you think you have a problem that she can't solve, you're probably wrong, because she has solved all of them. And if she doesn't have the solution immediately, she knows who to reach out to. So any questions or issues that come up, Jeannie is our person to reach out to. If I tell you something, make sure Jeannie's CC'd on it, because she'll make sure that I'm correct, because she knows the policies of this grant better than anybody. Throughout your 3 years in the cohort, we have those work in progress sessions and those specific seminars just for you. We have the CTR series, which you take in your first year. And then typically after that series is when people transition to their own individualized education plan with other formal coursework, workshops, seminars, and then the research success teams program. Throughout all of that, though, you're writing proposals and you're writing papers, right? And you're writing up your research. You're conducting your research. That is your mentored research that you apply through the program for with those aims. But make sure that we talk with you about those aims. If you're doing other work, especially if it's funded on a mentor's award, we need to make sure that there's clear separation of what are your mentored career aims versus what is other work that's being done, and making sure those aims are really clear. And again, that's something that we support you in as you go through the program, to make sure that your mentored research aims are separate from other aims that might be receiving other funding sources. You finish the program. The people who join on April 1st, 2026 will be finishing on March 31st, 2029. And you're not done. We still reach out to you for another 15 years, where you report back about how you're doing, about the ways the program has helped you succeed, about how you're passing on the knowledge you've received to other mentees. I'm close to done. I'm cohort 4, so I have 3 more years where I'm also doing my yearly tracking. So when, if anybody's ever like, why am I still doing this survey? I'm like, well, I am too. So no sympathy on that front. It's not that bad. Most of it is automatically pulled from the NH Reporter and from PubMed. You do have to do a little bit of like extra, are you still participating in clinical translational research? What leadership roles have you taken? Some other things in that post-tracking survey. But it's not something that takes more than half an hour once a year. Okay, next slide. So a lot of questions come up about who is a good mentor and what is expected of mentors. If this is the first time you're applying for a mentored award, you might not have really thought about who am I setting up as the mentors I want on my award. So mentors they're actually one of the most critical parts of you having a successful application. You as a researcher, needs to show potential, needs to show that you're on a trajectory where you are planning to make this your career, that you're willing to invest the time. But we also need to see that your mentors are there to support you. So during the application process, how that's shown that you have a strong mentorship team is that your research design and your career development goals are reasonable, right? They are something that you will get done in 2 to 3 years. And that really shows that your mentorship has advised you on the research design and your career development goals. They should collaborate by reviewing the components of your grant, right? They're not writing your grant for you, but they are reviewing your drafts. They're giving you feedback that something is feasible, right? Or is meaningful, or is innovative, or is significant, that there is something, worth doing in the project that you're writing up. They will provide you with letters of support. Sometimes the mentors all sign one letter, but sometimes they submit an additional letter, depending on the number of mentors you have. I think I can say this, I can't give an individual application advice, but I can tell you in general, 1 mentor is not enough and 4 mentors is too many, right? And so somewhere that sweet spot is typically in the 2 to 3 mentors. Your mentor should facilitate your letter of departmental support. So one of your mentors needs to be somebody who has a professional relationship with your department chief or chair so that that letter of support shows that your department will support you at the level expected for this award. So I would make sure that one of your mentors is somebody who can help facilitate you receiving that letter. If you advance in the application process, they will participate in an interview with the selection committee, which involves the KL2 and SCCTSI leadership. It's over Zoom. You don't have to make them come in person anywhere. I know post-COVID, that's almost impossible to get done, but they do need to be available to be interviewed on the same day as you. And they really need to anticipate the administrative and financial support needs you'll need. For most of you, this will be the first time that you're figuring out your own award, and they need to be able to connect you to the administrative or financial support person in your department that helps you understand the limitations, the expectations, when it's allowable to spend funds, and all of those things. And again, we support you in that through the program, but your mentor needs to help you identify who that person is in your own department or division that supports you in the actual distribution of those funds. And then during the program, right, your mentor will need to ensure that you're receiving the protected time for the mentee while you're in the program. It's not common, but occasionally a mentee comes in and their department chair totally on board with 75% protected time for career development and research activities. And then things just happen, right? There's a lot of other faculty out on family leave, or, unexpected clinical needs come up. Your mentor needs to be able to advocate for you to have the protected time you need while you're in the program. And so making sure that one of your mentors is that person that can advocate for that is very important. During the training program, your mentor needs to have regular meetings with you, both individually and with your entire mentor team, so that everyone can check in together. They need to evaluate your progress on your individualized development plan, which we will help you establish when you start the program. With the leadership in our program, your mentor is going to help develop the mentoring strategies, right? So we have our core plans, but we modify it depending on where mentor strengths are. We want to take advantage and really build towards the strengths of all of our mentor scholar teams. So they will give input about this, and they will have sessions where it's mentors only. We talk about how to best support our scholars. We expect one of your mentors to attend the work in progress session that happens twice a year, which starts with a baseline presentation. Right after people start the program in April, we try to have that baseline presentation that's really your work to happen as opposed to your work in progress, by May of that year. And there are mentoring workshops offered through various parts of the SCCTSI that use the SIMR curriculum, and we expect all mentors to have completed the SIMR curriculum before they complete the program with you. Not necessarily before they start, but definitely by the time they end. So these are the important dates that we all need to be aware of. One is that we ask you to submit a one-page letter of intent by August 15th. And the reason we need you to do that is that the applications are reviewed by an internal selection committee, but are also sent out for external review by content experts in your area. And we really need to early on establish, what that area is and who the content experts are. So your letter of intent needs to have enough information in there that we could understand what general area you're studying, the disease-specific process, and then whatever you can tell us about the methodology so that we're able to find the best expert to review your work. The actual submission is due by August 31st. So very few people finish their application before the letter of intent. Has it ever happened, Jeannie? Maybe once? Never. No one submits before then. So we really know that you're probably submitting this from August 16th through August 31st. And most of you will submit it on August 30th. Not August 31st, but it might be August 31st. But it's by 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You need to have the application in by that time. We review a lot of applications, and we just can't extend towards people that don't meet that deadline. But the application will be available to view on June 1st. We have a few last things that we're editing and revising the website. And so we will have a technical webinar in early June so that you're able to walk through the application with us, ask questions about how to do things with it. And then again, just other questions that might come up about the KL2 program. We review your applications with both the external and internal review committee in September and October. And we will have applicant interviews with you and your mentors in early November. we will have our cohort identified and selected by early December, so that your chairs and departments can make plans of how that's going to work into their budgets. And those are things most of us haven't had to worry about before, is like the budget side of it. That's really the chair and the administrator's job. And so they need time to make that happen. They need to know that you're applying now, and then they need to know as soon as possible if you get it so that they can prepare for that. And we will have an orientation for the awardees and their mentors in the middle of December, so that we can really get you started on the process of onboarding to the grant, of what the expectations and requirements are, and how to reach out for support when you need it. And then the start date for this cohort will be April 1st, 2026. All right. Next slide. With any questions, you can check out our website. You can email us at kl2@sctsi.org, and also, come ask questions now too.
We have one question.
One in the chat. How many applications do you typically receive? So that does vary from year to year. I would say the maximum was probably 25 one. Does that sound right?
The max I think we've ever had was anywhere between 18 to 20.
Yeah, so 18 to 20, and then the low end is like around 10, and that's, like deep in COVID when no one knew what was going on and things like that. So we have a range of applications that come in, depending on other funding issues that are going on, and other worldwide pandemics and things like that. And then I will say, one of the good things about this application is that it's a Mentor Career Development Award. Mentor Career Development Awards are very similar across foundations and federal institutions. While we don't know the exact future of how that's going to look in the next year to 2 years, we do know that it's still going to exist. And so getting started on your mentor career development plans, starting these applications, getting your first personal statement written, all of these things are something that you build on. So even if you start this application and you don't decide to submit it, or you submit and you aren't selected for this year, you can revise and apply again next year. Or some people use that as the foundation for writing another career development award. And so, none of the things that we're asking you for are different than other applications would need. They're just a more abbreviated form for us because it's a, kind of more of an intro program. So I just want to make sure that people think about that a little bit too. Like, it does seem like a lot to get started, but if this is the pathway you're on, you're going to be writing a lot of mentored career award applications, and getting your paperwork, aligned so that you're revising for future applications is important too. And everybody will get feedback on their application, even if you do not advance to the interview. We make sure that we get you those reviews back. That answered more than your question was, but I think that those are important things to consider too. Any questions about the program, the application process, who a good mentor is, not a specific person, but general qualities? And I'm happy to stay on for quieter questions if people don't want to ask on the recording. Or also we can answer questions by email, and make sure you send emails to both Jeannie and I, so that you get the director level view as well as the logistics level view. We'll be posting these slides on the website. I think we can do that, right, Jeannie? We're definitely posting the recording.
Yes, hopefully we'll be able to do all of that. Yes.
Yeah. And it might take a few days. We need the web manager to do that. Do all mentors have to be within USC, or can we have external mentors? That is a great question. And I'm glad you asked it, because I did not explicitly say that. Your mentors can be from other places. When I was at KL2, I had 2 USC mentors, and then my third mentor was actually from UCLA, where I had done some prior coursework. And we like that. We want your mentors to be from broad areas, to be able to communicate across institutions and areas of science. That's how you make really innovative jumps in science, right? Is by bringing together divergent thinking. Learning how to communicate across a team of divergent thinkers is one of the key principles of successful clinical translational researchers, and we really encourage that. You do need to have at least one mentor who can be your advocate when you potentially run into barriers with, you know, your percent effort or who do I connect with to get this thing done in my clinical area. All of those logistical questions, we can't necessarily answer for each individual department. So you need to have a mentor who's able to get you the resources you need. Yeah, and Jeannie's pointing out if anybody wants the recording and PowerPoints like immediately before we get them posted, to send her an email. Or I'm sorry, put your email in the chat for her and then she can send those to you in case you need that before the web manager is able to get them up. Oh, that's a great question. What are key reasons application don't move forward? Well, I'm going to say the biggest reason is that somebody submits an application and they're not quite eligible. So for the KL2 MCD program, we do need you to be faculty by the time that by the program starts. So if you aren't quite faculty yet, skirting it right up to the deadline is going to make it difficult. We can't appoint you to the grant if you aren't faculty yet. So that's a really key thing that must happen. Other reasons applications don't move forward. The letter of support from the chair is contingent on you, like they're supporting you only if you receive the award. They haven't shown evidence of supporting you as a clinical researcher or willingness to do so unless you receive the award. And I know that that's a fine line to skate, right? Because you do need to bring in some support to protect that time, especially if you're coming from a clinical department. But if it is very clear that you aren't receiving any support from your department except for a letter that says that if you are selected, they will most likely support you. Right? That just doesn't show that your department's ready to invest in you. Because it's not only you investing in yourself, it's also your department investing in you. Sometimes there's some major issues in grantsmanship or like the way that it's written that shows that your mentor really didn't take the time to carefully read it over with you and help you prepare it. And some other things that come up sometimes are like your mentor's, letter has the wrong name in it, right? Or something like that. That's very rare that happens, but that's kind of a red flag that like your mentor isn't actually committed to helping you build your career. Because the KL2 MCD program really is a partnership between the SCCTSI, through the NIH, as well as your department or division in supporting you. And if it's not clear that your department or division is willing to be that team member, that would be really concerning to bring you into a program. It just doesn't build you for success, right? We'll be asking you to do things you don't have the support to do. Other key reasons. It's really, that's a lot, right? Getting an application together where you have a strong mentor who's willing to support you, like that shows a lot of commitment already. We really want to see that. I will say we do want to see how your work is going to have impact eventually, right? These are all small funds, like your small project that you're doing as early faculty probably isn't going to be practice changing on its own, but we want to see where it's heading to, right? With your findings, what are you going to build from that, right? Where are you going to build your career next? And if it's not clear, like how this is helping you build towards science that really is going to make a real world impact, that's less attractive to to a candidate. We're trying to build people that are going to change healthcare, right? Change the way we treat patients, improve the health of humans. And we really need to see how your work connects to that. Doesn't have to do it right now, right? But how it eventually will connect to that. You're all on my calendar till 1 p.m. So if there's no questions that are too little or too weird, I'm happy to hang out. And also, if this spurs some questions for you, feel free to email us again at the email listed or come to our next session, which is a technical webinar, but also we'll have time for Q&A and things that might come up. And Jeannie, do you remember the date? I don't have it off the top of my head. Our next session is?
1 second. Off the top of my head, no, I apologize.
It's definitely posted somewhere, but we will get it for you right now too, so you know.
All right, it's not popping up on my calendar. Let me just take a look here.
I will find it. I
apologize.
No, I just realized we didn't, I didn't even think of including it on the slide, but it probably would have been key information for everybody to have right now. So,
Next interview session is June 24th
Okay.
at 11:30 a.m.
so we'll have a technical webinar on June 24th at 11 a.m. so that,
30.
you know, applications will have been open for a few weeks at that point. Most of you will flip through it at least once, and you might have questions about different parts of it or anything that you're having difficulty with, in addition to reviewing what the program is again, and also answering questions at that point. And then we'll have one last session in late July, and we'll post that time, at the June session for just really and Ask Me Anything, either in late July or early August, to really get through some of those last questions you might have as we're working through your application and you're thinking about what are the components you need to pull together.